You don't need 6 or 7 or 50. You don't need 18, 19, or 20. You certainly don't need an army of many, a boatload, a gaggle, a gang, or a bivvy. I'm telling you now, to learn how to be strong, and I wouldn't mislead you, you only need one. No matter what shoreline, no matter which city, no need to play small so that you get pity. That won't be the way to be at your best. You must listen inside you and ignore all the rest who don't get what you want or understand what you aim for. Your ambition inside is what you must fight for. You only get one life, so you must find your calling. If not now, then when? No excuses, no stalling, and sometimes we need to see with our eyes. Take in the realness of someone whose life is a few steps ahead, who's gone through the bumps, rejection, and pain, and of course a few lumps. Someone who knew that one day they'd be bigger than anyone could possibly see. And when you find them, you'll understand why. You might even feel like you could easily cry. Your hero has been there. Your hero. She gets it. She says a few lines and you can't even stand it because she's saying what you've always known in your heart. Feelings that you've had that have set you apart from the rest of the crowd. Then you see how to pave a life that will take you on your own way. But try to remember, try to keep hold of a thought that is here to help your life unfold. That when I was young and determined to be, the vision that I had inside of me, I found a woman, and one woman only. As I previously mentioned, you don't need many. I looked at her life and saw what she did. In this moment, I recall so clearly in my head. I went to the mirror, looked myself in the eye, and I said to myself, if she can do it, surely so can I. And that's all I needed from that one day. I'll never forget her. I can never repay her for all that she did. How she inspired me to be, how she inspired me to see the hero that now lives inside of me. This incredible life that I now can call mine, unknowingly inspiring me to get to find. I remember the moment I started to run because I knew I'd be able to, because I found one.
I think as a young woman growing up in a developing country, you have no choice but to be attached to the women and girls agenda because you experience discrimination every step of the way all your life. And, growing up, I had such a vivid sense that society was unjust and it was unfair towards girls and women because there were different rules for girls than they were for the boys when I was growing up. And I think very early on, I developed a conviction that one had to do something about making the world a better place. So I ended up working in development. I spent many years of my career working with and for the World Bank Group, both on the public side as well as on the private side. And, working in the largest multilateral that is aimed at reducing poverty worldwide brings you front and center of the issues that girls and women face because poverty is deeply feminized. Most of the people in the world who are poor are girls and women. So there's something that has been with me most of my career. And then about, a little over a year ago, I was offered the opportunity to really take all that experience and energy and passion and direct it towards the issue of gender equality and women's empowerment. And that's when I joined UN Women. And that was a dream come true because it's something I had always wanted to work on. But this gives me now the chance to really focus on this issue out of many others in development. It is SDG 5, which is to me, one of the central SDGs because achieving results for women and girls means you change not just the lives of girls and women, but you change families, you change communities, and you change countries. It is the year, which is the year of the celebration of 25 years of the Beijing Platform and Declaration of Action. And so, many young people don't remember this, but that was the year when, women's rights advocates and women from all over the world got together in Beijing to really lay out what remains a transformative agenda for gender equality. And it identified a number of areas where the world needed to see progress to really have a just world. So we at UN Women have been doing some work this past year and the year before to just get from countries a sense of how far along are they? Where has there been progress? Where has there been real change? And, one of the things that I will say that I think has been a bit quite shocking is that there are lots of areas, yes, of progress, but the gap is huge. And the progress is not to be belittled. We must celebrate the changes that have been made, because we have seen changes in access to educational opportunities for girls. We have seen improvements in maternal mortality. We have seen improvements in health outcomes for women. We have seen more women occupy positions of leadership and power. We have seen improvements, in women's access to collateral and to women's financial inclusion, and the ability of women to actually manage their own assets, to own property, to start a business. Many of these things have changed. But to me, the shocking thing is how much work we still have to do. So I have to pinch myself sometimes to say, are we really in 2021 when you look around and you see that less than 10% of the heads of state in the world are women, and only 25% of parliamentarians worldwide are women? And, recently, Jane Fraser was appointed the CEO of Citibank, the first female CEO on Wall Street in 2021. That's absurd. And so when I look at that, and then when I look at the fact that actually in most countries in the world, you still have completely unacceptable rates of domestic and gender-based violence, and women are still treated as chattel in so many parts of the world, and women still carry a huge burden of unpaid care work. And under COVID, of course, everything is just getting much worse. So when I look at the world, I say, yes, I'm thankful for the progress that was made, but boy, do we have a long way to go, and boy, do we need to bring a sense of urgency to this. What I'd like to see happen is currently governments are managing large sums of money as part of their fiscal stimulus packages. So I'm calling on governments to make sure that there is a gender lens to the fiscal stimulus packages, and that they are thinking very purposefully about the impact of all of this money and where it's going on women and girls. And I am not sure that we're going to see huge impact in a year, but we can start the work now. And the work can start by actually acknowledging, first and foremost, that women actually need to be at the table. They need to be decision makers, and they need to be part of the decision-making process. And it is very troubling to me that when I turn on the television and I look at who's talking about the pandemic and what decisions are being made, most of the people talking are men. Nothing against men, lots of enlightened male leaders, and in fact, we need men and boys to be part of this change agenda as well. But we actually also need women at the table. And so the change that I'd like to see, which I think can be immediate, is to see more women included in decision-making roles immediately in all levels, local, community, national, international. That's one. I'd like to see real political will and financial resources being directed to solving the problem of violence against women, because part of that, of course, is cultural, it's attitudes, it's norms, it's the change that you want to bring about starting with the family unit. But part of it is also government standing up and acknowledging that there is a problem about violence, which many of them did, by the way, during the pandemic. Many came out and agreed with the UN Secretary General's report and his view that this is a shadow pandemic. So, we do have governments out there who are beginning to speak about this. But in addition to speaking about this, they have to take steps to actually solve for the problem, which means raising awareness, but also creating shelters, spaces that are safe for girls and women, and also bringing those who are guilty of this violence to trial and making sure that they are being held accountable for their actions. And we need to see investments in technology. We want to see the digital divide for girls and women closed, because one of the things that we have learned through the pandemic is that technology is a huge enabler, right? It is an enabler of work. I'm able to speak to you right now because of technology. Lots of kids are in school and are able to continue their education because of technology. But in many parts of the world, their technology doesn't exist. And the people who don't have access to technology and who are going to be left behind are girls. So there needs to be a really special focus on girls' education and making sure that girls don't drop out of school because of the pandemic. So those are some of the things that I'd like to see happen very quickly. Definitely one hero was my mother, who died when I was very young. But, she was a working woman, which was very unusual for a woman in India in that generation. Well, actually, not just in India, all over the world. It was not very common to see women working outside the home in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You just had so many women who were still primarily homemakers. So my mother was exceptional in that sense, and she was an educator and somebody who really believed in girls' education. And, I'm dwelling on the issue of girls' education because I really do think that it is probably the best development investment that there is, because once you educate a girl, you really change a lot of people's lives, not just that girl's life. And I guess I'm a living example of that, because there's a story in my family that when my mother was dying and on her deathbed, that she said to my father, whatever you do, I don't want you to marry the girls off. Please make sure that they are educated. And my father kept his promise to her. He made sure that we were educated. And not only that, that when we wanted to leave India and go overseas and come to the US for graduate school, he didn't stop us. In fact, he encouraged us. So I think, my parents have been very influential in making me the person that I am today. And then all along the journey that I've had this far and the path that I have walked, there have been amazing people, who have helped at every step of the way. So, I spend a lot of my time trying to give back in the ways that I got. I would not be here just by dint of hard work. It is not just my capacities, but it is really the support of amazing men and women along the way who have brought me here. And invest in yourself and your capacities. I look at my daughter and I see how she is able to speak truth to power, to negotiate, to do so many things that when I look at my younger self and I think back to how I was at her age, I would never have been able to do any of those things. So I'm kind of in awe of her, actually. And I say, wow, that's amazing that you do that. And I think it's fabulous that you do that. So I would just say to young women, the world is your oyster. You can actually do anything. We know that, right? What gets in the way are other people's attitudes, other people's ideas about your capabilities, but be confident, have the self-awareness and the self-esteem to actually push forward for your dreams, because it is possible to reach them, and on the way, bring others along, right? Because it should not be a zero-sum competition. Give to other people all along the way, because if you start to do that, you will find it comes back to you in spades. So, absolutely push for what you want yourself, but bring other people along as well. The world does not look like a very good place because so many people have suffered so much under the pandemic. So many lives have been lost. But, history teaches us that things change. So things will change, and each and every girl has a really important role to play. So I would say girls have tremendous power. Girls can run the world. So my message to young girls everywhere would be confident in your own abilities. Don't be afraid to speak up. Carry on doing the good work that you're doing and be confident that you can build a beautiful future where you take care of the planet, you take care of people, and you take care of yourself. I'm so privileged that I work for an organization whose mission is gender equality and women's empowerment. So, I just feel like one of the luckiest people in the world that this is my job, right? I'm paid to do this amazing work. It just, almost too good to be true. It's so fantastic. But I would say that I think my pledge is that I'm going to work, not just in the UN system, which is very important, but with people and institutions everywhere, with business, with civil society, with other organizations, with young people to try to change the world, because the world needs changing. We have seen this because of COVID, we've seen it because of climate change. This world really needs to be changed. We need to take care of our planet and we need to take care of our people. And right now, we're not doing a very good job at either. So my pledge is that I will continue in my work and in my personal life to do the things that I really believe are going to make our planet better off and our people better off. A very fundamental, basic human right. And it is when you know what I know about how women live and are treated in many parts of the world, you can't really get up and face yourself in the mirror every morning without asking, what am I doing to change that? So I think for me, it matters every waking moment of the day because it feels like the right thing to do, but also because I know from all my years of working in development that when you do the right thing, and you have the right sets of policies and you have the right kinds of governments, you can actually change people's lives. You can actually make the world a better place. I have seen people go from one generation to another generation, from absolute poverty to living a good life where their children can go to school, their children can dream of a good future. Nobody has to go hungry. These are solvable problems. So knowing that they are solvable really motivates me. And I think even though the planet is in such terrible shape today in terms of, the kinds of policies that we're seeing, the kinds of leaders that we're seeing, I've actually seen change. I've seen countries and places and families where with the right set of policies, you can change from one generation to another. So you can go from absolute hunger to having a family that is educated, where people have jobs, where they don't have to starve, where people can dream of a nice, wonderful future that is possible, right? And knowing it's possible motivates me tremendously. So even though the world doesn't seem like such a great place right now with this shadow of the pandemic over us, I think we have to be optimistic, because without optimism and without hope, we don't have a future. So I want to be realistic about the size of the problems that we have to solve, which are not small. And I think we all have to work together to solve them. But I also want to be optimistic that with the right sets of leaders and policies, we can actually solve them.
Be an example for others to follow in my footsteps. When I got into the entertainment industry, there were no other female distributors. And so myself and one other woman became the first that there was. And I'm incredibly proud to say that. And I've mentored many, many, many girls in the, you know, in the wake of what I started, and I'm proud to say that there's many now. As I go forward in my career, I'm always looking at new ways to kind of reinvent this business, reinvent myself, and go into many areas of this business that other girls have not. And hopefully, you know, I view myself as somebody that's got a hand out to lift many other women up so that they can follow exactly where I've gone and surpass me one day. So, you know, it's just important. I can't stress enough how important it is for girls to support girls and for girls to lift other girls up. And so, you know, lead by example, and hopefully, you know, I've inspired a few to just follow what I've done and again, surpass me. My story came into the entertainment business a little bit different than most. I went to college for a degree in psychology, started working in my graduate degrees with abused and foster children, and ultimately started to get a degree in sex therapy, and had to take that infamous year off because I was working a lot with the court systems in whether or not to give children back to families that oftentimes had abused the kids. And in that infamous year off, I made my way to Los Angeles and found my way getting a job as a PA, and quickly learned everything I could about the film business and decided I'm going to try this. And I took every bit of money I had, which wasn't that much at the time, and backed myself, which a lot of people don't do. I did. I started a company, and I was very blessed. Within a 5-year period of time, we had an Emmy nomination, a Golden Globe, a People's Choice. We won the United Nations Award, and I sold the company on a film with 4 Oscars. So it was quite the ride. My hero, unfortunately, just passed away. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, without a doubt, has been somebody that it was on my bucket list to have dinner with for so many different reasons. I mean, there was a woman that not only paved a way for so many of us to live the lives that we're living now, but did it with such grace, was able to make friends with and converse and with people that should have been her allies, and yet she didn't view them as such. And to be such a hardworking woman and have the stability and balance to keep her love life and her family life just as important as her work life. I mean, all the way around, that woman should be a role model for every young girl going forward. I don't know how to even compare anybody to her in my lifetime. Her advice that I would have learned from her is my advice to young girls when I go to speak at colleges, is it's so important in going forward in your life to find the balance, to follow your passions and your dreams of whatever it is you strive to do work-wise, but to not forget your family life. It's so important. I cannot tell you how many girls don't have a balance. Many guys too. I mean, I think the balance in life is the most tricky thing that we can try to overcome. And so Ruth Bader Ginsburg, again, was an example of living the dream and living the life that we should all hope to accomplish. Balance is everything. Balance your personal life, balance your love life, balance your work life. Remember, you can have it all, you can do it all. Just make sure you maintain the balance along the way. Your happiness is everything. On International Girls' Day, the message I have to girls everywhere is to join hands, be part of that sisterhood, and lift each other up. I know it sounds cheesy, it's not. Girls need to support girls every day in every way. And no matter where you are in the world, my message to you is embrace each other, be part of the sisterhood, let each other rise. If we all rise together. So it's so important on this day and every day. My personal pledge is to try to do everything I can in my personal power to put women in a place of voice. I'm lucky enough to be in the film business, and so I deal on a daily basis with people that can make a difference and should make a difference. And so I'm using my platform and encouraging everybody else I know to use their platform to put women in places they normally wouldn't have been in the past. I like to say, when I was growing up, Superman saved the day, and now we have Wonder Woman. So let's all strive to put women in a position of power, of voice, of an area where, again, we can lift each other up and find the equality that should have always been there. Women matter every hour because they are the backbone of the world. I mean, without nurturing, without maternal instincts, without motherhood, without sisterhood, where would we be? I'm proud to be a woman. There's not any time in my life that I've wished or wondered what it would be like to be a man. Femininity is everything. Nurturing is everything. Women are everything. And so, I can't imagine a world without us. So it's very important that we all band together, as I said before, and rise each other up.
Hi, I'm Fatima Kari Mohammed. I was very creative when I was young and more inclined towards the arts, but my father wanted me to become a doctor. I was able to negotiate my path and was able to break cultural barriers. As long as I got my education, this was the most important. Education is power that no one can take away from you. Since then, I've been in the trenches with the most vulnerable and up high with global leaders. Here's what I've learned. Women and people of color need to work twice as hard. Be at the top of your game. What you say is important, but your actions are stronger. And even well-intentioned policies don't always know what's best for people. People do. If you truly want to make a change, listen to what people need and then assist. The more we can make policies real, the better the world is for it. But if I'm your hero, it's because you also believe out of all the actions you can take, kindness is actually the most important. Be kind in strength.
In Dakar, Senegal. It was not until I graduated, when I was 22, that I felt discriminations against women for the first time. My favorite speech ever? Hillary Clinton, Beijing, 1995. She said something powerful. Women's rights are human's rights. I am not interested in microfinance for women. I'm interested in macro investment. And I want women to own more of the world's wealth. I want women to have a seat at the table, be the leader at the table, design, engineer, manufacture the table. And when you do have a seat at the table, when it's time to leave, please give it to another woman. Without a doubt, the rest of the table will already be filled by men. If I'm your hero, it's because you believe in a world that gives equal opportunity to women and girls.
Hello, I'm Tracy Ring-Kreider, and I'm honored to be part of the World Woman Hour. I think one of the most important things that we can recognize is that increasing women's presence in data science is that recognizing the aperture of what that means is really the opportunity. Data science isn't just a technical domain. It's what our chief marketing officers and what our chief product officers and really everybody in an organization that is using data to make decisions is part of that data science aperture. And I think if we can open our minds that it's not necessarily only technical acumen, but is that blend that everyone is utilizing it and it's embedded in everything we already are doing. I think the biggest disparity I see today is that at the current moment, we need to do a much better job of bringing diverse practitioners together to help drive the data science, drive the automation, take the unconscious bias out of how we're developing. And that really begins by recruiting, growing, and nurturing people of all diverse backgrounds, being an advocate and bringing and supporting their careers in a way that the most senior leaders are able to understand the full view of how data can both impact and drive better decisions when they have a broader set of inputs. My pledge for 2030 for achieving gender equality is absolutely rooted in recruiting, nurturing the next generation of talent. I'm increasingly impressed and learn more and more from the individuals that I teach and mentor that are in college or grammar school, and the way that they're challenging the status quo. And I think not only focusing on the next generation, but I think it's about focusing on helping folks integrate their career with their lives. And women, I think, particularly can benefit from a mentor that can coach them through those times when they need to advance or be more integrative with their work and what's going on. My heroes really are, I think, primarily two women and two women that embrace what these two women are. And so the first, my Aunt Katrina, who is an incredible storyteller. And I think the stories that we tell with data and the way that she's able to capture the art of the story is something I use every day in my coaching, learning, and making compelling cases. And I would really be absolutely remiss to say that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is absolutely been a force of nature. And 2 years ago, I was able to see her in a packed stadium in Little Rock, Arkansas. And it really touched my heart in a special way. And losing her was, really a sad moment for all of us. And I think she's set the groundwork for many of us to take all of her causes forward. One piece of advice that I have received is that everything's negotiable. And I think the way that we consider the way we have answers and the way we respond, there's a lot of different ways to kind of think of opportunities and problems in a new way. And I encourage everyone to think about that. Women matter every hour because I truly believe that they are our storytellers. I think storytelling is one of our greatest assets. Data is at the heart of telling stories and telling powerful, meaningful ways. I think is an absolutely critical way that we are going to reach the SDG 2030 goals.
My international colleagues ask me a lot, how do you feel as a woman member of parliament in the country with patriarchal culture? And my answer is always positive. It is refreshing to be a part of it and represent the interest of my folk, but I had a tough journey getting to that point. Azerbaijan is a fascinating land. We respect and appreciate all other cultures. It is our historical heritage, a built-in tradition. Our country was first Muslim nation to declare women electoral rights in 1918, way before many Western countries. Women in Azerbaijan are probably among the most socially and politically active across Muslim nations, and I am trying to contribute to this equality. Even though our first vice president and parliament's chairman are women, we are still a minority. It is getting better, but being a woman politician in our society still has a big price emotionally. Male politics tend not to see women as an independent politicians or counterparts. When I faced it, I choose not direct confrontation, but a soft convincing. To educate them, to motivate them to grow, to become strong and happy, to be able to stand up discriminatory practices. Women from all over the world deserve to live in the world of mutual respect and trust. Allow me to mention two heroes of mine. Astrid Lindgren, a Swedish small woman who inspired millions of kids, girls and boys around the globe to be free and to dream through her books, and who throughout her whole life remained out of politics, but rose to be one of the most influential moral authorities in her country, speaking up to politicians, fighting for change. And the second one, who stepped directly into the world of male politics and not only survived through many ordeals, but won many battles, Elizabeth I of England. They are very different, but both strong. One is male power, second one is soft power. I remember sitting on the kitchen with my mom. She's cooking something and telling me that I have to be strong, that I have to be financially independent. And speaking about she is my hero story, This is the best thing that comes to my mind. I would like to share a quote of one of my heroes that I mentioned earlier. I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king. These words said Queen Elizabeth I of England. When I read her biography, it was very inspirational to see how a girl who was deprived of parental love and lived in seclusion become one of the influential leaders of her time. Work hard and perseverance pays off. Surround yourself with strong and smart people. Invest in your family and they will be your support.